That'll be messed
Also
up.
bans my favorite cards and then gives me the gold foils. How do I do this?
You're gonna break the card.
Just send it?
Send it.
So which side is it here?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
I got there. I won a ProQuest. Let's go. After not making it to nationals last season, I was pretty pissed and honestly kind of burnt out from the game. So I took a little bit of a break before coming into ProQuest season. I didn't play too much Flesh and Blood. I was still keeping up with the meta. I watched Pro Tour. I wasn't playing as much as I really am used to. I played a bunch of Magic the Gathering, played a lot of Cube and Draft. And I guess that's helpful for me. Like last time I was doing well during, RTNR ProQuest season. I was also kind of just playing a lot of Magic Draft. Who really knows what that's about? So in doing that, I didn't really have time to try and build my own deck list for this ProQuest season, and I was really just trying to play the best deck possible and trying to win. So we played Aurora. I played a couple lists beforehand trying to figure out which list I wanted to play. Of course, Sean Dollywall top 8'd, and I thought their list was pretty good, but it was a little clunky, and I thought they had too much equipment. And then I played the Runaways list, and it was better in my opinion. And they still had a lot of equipment in the Runaways list. This is Lucas Oswald's list from the Pro Tour, London. The important part is that he is playing 3 Flicker Wisp instead of a Poison the Well. I think Poison the Well is kind of bad right now. Although that's, I guess, prior to Enigma LL. Maybe after Enigma LL's CYB comes back into the meta a little more, maybe Poison the Well is a better card. So I decided I was going to be playing the Runaways list. I just played Lucas Oswald's list exactly, and I paid $5 for their Discord membership in order to get the sidebar guides for that, because that is a way better way to win, I guess, than actually thinking about all this stuff yourself. Let's go over my rounds. Round 1, I played against an Enigma player who is a local to me in Seattle, and he's kind of a newer player, but he played totally fine. Aurora, sometimes, she just draws the nuts and kills you, and that's what happened that game. I arsenaled Flicker Wisp turn 1 going first, and then I drew Arc Lightning the next turn, and my opponent didn't have Disruption, so I ended up just obliterating my opponent that game without really any way for him to interact with me. Round 2, I played against Fang, and this game was really interesting because my opponent ended up getting 3 Fealty on his turn 2, because on his turn 1, going first, he gets a Fealty and marks me, and then on his turn 2, he hit me and then made another Fealty. It didn't matter, though. I just played my cards and my opponent died. This deck is so insanely broken when you draw the correct cards in the correct matchups. If you draw Burn Up Shock against the decks that can't block particularly well, or you draw Exude Confidence when your opponent has D-Rex, there's really not much you can do, and that game I kind of just played a bunch of 4s, and my Fang opponent was not able to have as much damage as me. Round 3, I played against Azalea, and this is a good friend of mine. She beat me the last 2 times we played at, these sorts of events. So I was looking for a revenge, and I got it. Turned out my experience in the Azalea matchup was probably the most important thing that day, but we'll talk about that later. Round 4, I played against Ellie Bird on Aurora. She is a very good Flesh and Blood player, but also has a very teched list for the mirror. Just to leak a little bit of it, she's playing Zap Clappers, which if I were to go back and play this deck again at a ProQuest, I would for sure put Zap Clappers in my list, and I would cut Crown of Providence. But I ended up having very big turns early, where I basically drew all my CLVs and all my sigils, but she blocked them out, and then in the end game, she was able to have a Channel Lightning Valley down, draw and play a Channel Lightning Valley with another instant, so that she could draw 2 cards when I tapped out to try and push for lethal. So She drew a million cards off Channel Lightning Valley in the endgame, and despite me being up a fair bit of life, I just completely died to a 6-card Arc Lightning hand with Channel Lightning Valley on the battlefield. It happens. So lost round 4, but winning the first 3 rounds is really good, and this was a 37-person tournament. So if I win one more round, I'm in. In round 5, I played against Azalea again, and in this matchup, I went first this time and just kind of played all my cards, and my opponent died, which is, I guess, kind of what it is. And then going into round 6, I played against Enigma, and this Enigma player is a local of mine who I play against a lot, and we test a lot. And I actually think Enigma is probably even into Aurora right now. Aurora has to draw pretty hot in order to bring the life totals down fast enough to make sure that she doesn't die to a mirror guy in the endgame. I wasn't able to do that game. I didn't draw Flicker Wisp with Arc Lightning at all that game. I drew 3 Flicker Wisps and 0 Arc Lightning. So, you know, it happens. It wasn't the greatest game for me draw-wise, and honestly, it wasn't really close at all. He just kind of mollywopped me. That was the end of the Swiss rounds. 6 rounds of Swiss for more than 32 people. So that means we're going into top 8, and top 8 is... First seed is Ellie Bird on Aurora. Second seed is the Enigma that I played in my last round, who went 5-1. The third seed was an Azalea, who had just gotten back from the Pro Tour. The fourth seed was me. The fifth seed was a Zen player. Sixth seed was a Slippy player. And seventh seed is Aurora, and eighth seed is Azalea. So there's 3 Auroras and 2 Azaleas in top 8, and then 1 Enigma, 1 Zen, 1 Slippy. I'm seeded against Zen, and lucky for me, my opponent gets an IP2 because they forgot to register their Warmonger's Diplomacies on their deck list. It's also good for me because I ended up bricking for the first 2 hands. And Zen gets uniquely punished by the IP2 because he has less of a chance to draw Chi, which means he's slower to start. My opponent did end up being able to draw the Chi turn 0 though, so it didn't really matter. And we kind of had a pretty close game until in the end game I just drew an insane Arc Lightning hand after my opponent was forced to utilize their chest on a Lightning Press so that I wouldn't get a Snatch Draw on a particularly powerful turn. So I was able to win that game pretty handily, luckily because of the IP2. It would have been pretty embarrassing to lose to an IP2. The next game I played against the Azalea that I played in round 5. And it's funny because he was talking about how he had played against a bunch of Auroras that day. I was the only Aurora to beat his Azalea. And then I was able to choose going first or second. In this game, I think I chose going second, although in my complete opinion, I don't think first, second matters at all in the matchup. I think it's just completely dependent on, does Azalea draw a Red Ledger? If so, then, you know, she's going to have a good time, and if not, then she's going to really struggle. And my opponent did end up drawing a Red Ledger, but I ended up E-striking after getting hit by the Red Ledger, which is probably the biggest way to come back from getting hit by Red Ledger. I think one of the very most important things about playing into Azalea is that when you play against Azalea, you need to be calm about the Red Ledger. So you need to figure out a way where you can have the highest value turn with only 1 action point. So what does that mean? Well, it means we want to make sure we're utilizing Lightning Press and Lightning Strike, cards like that. So I was able to take down this Azalea player by having some smart turns where I was able to play under Red Ledger efficiently. There was one turn where I double Lightning Pressed under Red Ledger, one turn where I E-striked, and then when I wasn't under the disruption, I was able to play huge, high-efficiency hands because I was creating embodiments on turns where I was having off turns. And then going into the finals, it's another Azalea who had just come back from the Pro Tour. And he was 3rd seed, so he gets to choose, and he puts me on first, which is totally fine with me. I think going second is slightly better for Azalea. However, going first, you can get just randomly the most insane hands and just Red Ledger for 11 Dominate with a Ponder on hit. And when you do that, you sometimes just win the game on the spot. So if you're trying to play a game that is more stable, you pick second. If you're trying to just kind of high roll your opponent and win, you pick first. I think choosing either is totally fine. But he puts me on first, and I end up attacking with Ravenous Rabble, and I flip the top card, and it's Arc Lightning. And I look at my hand and say, well, my hand has a Skyward Serenade in it. So what's the best way to take advantage of this situation? My opponent had a block for 3, and they blocked with a knock. And I'm pretty sure they were expecting me to attack with 3 cards in that matchup in Arsenal, because usually Aurora gets to leak like somewhere between 3 to 6 damage turn 1. So they blocked with knock, expecting to block with the rest of their hand. And instead, I just made a rune chant and passed the turn. And I don't think they were expecting that. Their face did not show that they were expecting that. So they go into their next turn and play an arrow that doesn't really have too big of an on-hit, and I proceed to play a gigantic 5-card hand with Skyward Serenade and Arc Lightning, and deal 21 damage on my second turn, going first. And that's usually enough to just close the game out on its own, and it really was. I ended up just being up a ton of life throughout the whole game. And the only way Azalea can make it back from that situation is by, dominating Red Ledger, and on the turn where I got Red Ledgered, I had the E-Strike to make it out of that situation. So, just a really good tournament for me. I played all my cards. It's Aurora. So you just play your cards, they have go again, you attack your opponent. You play Arc Lightnings, you hopefully play Flicker Wisps, and you hopefully play Channel Lightning Valley Sigil. If I were to go back, there's exactly one card I changed, which I talked about before. I would turn this Crown of Providence into a Zap Clappers exactly for the mirror. There ended up not being very many assassins at all at the tournament. There was like 1 Slippy and 2 new, something like that. And I'm not playing Crown of Providence for any other matchup. Although, I only played against 1 Aurora, but the Aurora representation in that tournament was significantly higher than the Assassin representation. So, although I think the Zap Clappers tech in particular is good tech. Ellie had some other tech for the mirror that I thought was just fine. Like, you can play more D-Reacts for the mirror, but I think the Zap Clappers is good because there are enough turns that you're going to draw Channel Lightning Valleys, and getting an extra Channel Lightning Valley draw if your opponent taps out is just incredible, and it's a start and play, stays in play, so you can basically do it every game. I think that tech is way more impactful than cards in deck, anything like that. Speaking to the deck moving forward in ProQuest season, now that Enigma and Zen have rotated, I think you might want to move more towards Crown of Dominion as a combo piece, because you need to beat like the super defensive Florians, and you need to kill Verdance before she's able to assemble enough damage and kill you on with your attacks on the stack. At the same time, like the Crown of Dominion plan is not very stable. It's possible that it's not correct. I'd have to do a little more testing, but if more slow decks are coming into the format because Enigma's leaving, then we definitely want it. But if Assassin is coming back into the meta because Enigma's leaving, like New in particular, then maybe we don't need the Crown of Dominion. And if New's going to be beating up all the other decks that are slow, and if our focus has to be on New, then I don't think we need Crown of Dominion in the list, but I would be testing Crown of Dominion right now. However, I will not be playing Aurora next week, because I think this deck is boring. I will be playing probably something like Kano, or who knows. The last thing I just want to mention about Aurora is that when I hear people talk about Aurora, especially in the States, I feel like they talk about the mini combos in this deck. They talk about Channel Lightning Valley Sigil. They talk about Burn Up Shotgun Lightning Press. They talk about Flicker Wisp Arc Lightning. I think those cards are good and they're in the list for a reason. However, I think that the way the deck wins is not with synergy or with micro combos, the way the deck wins is you just play fours. You just play fours and kill your opponent. Focusing too much on Burn Up Shock, Channel Lightning Valley, Sigil of Suffering is how you lose with Aurora, in my opinion. Especially, like, the cards that say you have to hit. In this meta, I think those cards are especially weak. Now, if you already have a Channel Lightning Valley, Burn Up Shock is a good card, right? Because it takes a card out of their hand. But if you don't have a Channel Lightning Valley on the battlefield, I think Burn Up Shock is actually a liability. Everybody's got a fridge. Everybody's trying to block out your Burn Up Shocks. And so when you play a Burn Up Shock, you are almost always not hitting and just taking cards out of your opponent's hand, which you were going to do anyways. So I think you shouldn't focus on this sort of card, and this Burn Up Shock is the first card that I'm blocking with from my hand if my opponent is sending Disruption, and it's also the first card I'm blocking with from my hand if I feel like I'm not going to be able to hit my opponent. I'm not especially interested in arsenaling this card. I think the Flicker Wisp Arc Lightning package is important for some matchups, and it's good against Enigma because it can take Ward off the board in an uninteractable way. But I think Flicker Wisp is also just kind of a weak card. There are ways to take advantage of it to make it a 0 for 3 or even a 0 for 4. Especially with, the Burn Up Shocks. But if you're playing Flicker Wisp and then playing Burn Up Shock on the same turn, you are not hitting your opponent. Especially in the matchups where we're playing the Flicker Wisp. So, mostly I think, yes, you're required to play the Flicker Wisp combo for specific matchups. But this card is pretty bad, honestly. And so is Channel Lightning Valley. Channel Lightning Valley is extremely strong in the mirror and strong into Azalea, but I think Channel Lightning Valley overall in this meta is not particularly good. I wouldn't try and focus my entire game plan around it. We're playing specific cards to try and take advantage of it. My opponent is almost always able to either fully block out my hands when I attack with it, or AB the Sigil of Suffering, or they're playing around it in some way. It forces them to play a little bit differently than they might usually, but realistically, Channel Lightning Valley is just turning on your weapon and making your opponent block, which they want to do anyways, unless it's exactly the Mirror or Azalea. Which is why I think the best card in the deck is Skyward Serenade, easily. Having a Lightning starter for 0 for 4 go again at any point, that is also kind of modular. Sometimes you can, embodiment +1 for snatch with Gogan for 5, and sometimes if you already have an embodiment, you can +1 look for Skizik to make Skizik a 0 for 5 go again. The reason why Aurora is so much stronger now than she was before the Armory deck is because of Skyward Serenade, make no mistake. This having an extra 0 for 4 go again is just so strong because it turns on literally everything else in the deck. It also kind of acts as 6 0 for 4 go agains because you're able to take out an extra card from your deck that was a little bit of a brick. If you're playing Aurora at the next ProQuest, I would focus less on these micro synergies, especially with the Earth Heroes maybe coming to prominence. I would focus less on Channel Lightning Valley and Burn Up Shock, and I would focus more on just playing fours and attacking my opponent. Let me know if you have any questions about the deck, and hopefully you have success in the rest of the ProQuest season. I think Aurora is going to be the best deck moving forward until she LLs, so you should probably be bringing her, and hopefully you can have success.